The story opens with Lieutenant Daniel Griffin commanding a small human survey vessel, the HSS Pathfinder, conducting routine exploratory missions along the outer rim of charted space. His crew includes navigator Katie Morrison, chief engineer Paul Sanders, and medical officer Lisa Chen. They're part of humanity's cautious expansion into the galaxy, aware that they're relatively new players among ancient civilizations. During a mapping expedition near an uncharted nebula, the Pathfinder encounters a catastrophic engine failure caused by an unexpected radiation pulse. The ship begins breaking apart, and in the chaos, Daniel's 8-year-old daughter Emma Griffin, who was aboard for a family visit during a diplomatic transport run, becomes separated from the crew when a bulkhead collapses. Daniel is trapped on the bridge, watching helplessly through deteriorating sensors as escape pods launch. He believes Emma made it to safety, but he's wrong. Emma's section of the ship tears away and tumbles into the nebula. She's unconscious in an emergency shelter that's rapidly losing life support. Her distress beacon is too weak to penetrate the nebula's interference. Meanwhile, a lone alien scientist named Vecren, from a species called the Kelrath, is conducting private research in the same nebula. The Kelrath are an ancient, peaceful race of insectoid beings, highly advanced but isolationist, avoiding the galactic community's politics. Vecren is studying stellar phenomena when he detects Emma's fading life signs. Despite strict Kelrath protocols against interfering with other species, Vecren makes a choice. He navigates his small research vessel through dangerous radiation storms to reach Emma's wreckage. Finding her barely alive, he uses his ship's medical bay to stabilize her, though Kelrath and human biology are vastly different. He manages to keep her alive through improvisation and desperate measures, spending 3 days nursing her back to health while trying to figure out how to return her safely. During this time, Emma wakes up terrified but gradually comes to trust Vecren despite his alien appearance, 4 arms, compound eyes, and chitinous plating. He communicates through a translation device and shows her kindness, sharing what food he can adapt for her biology and keeping her calm. He tells her stories of his world, Kelrath's, and his people's philosophy of preserving life above all else. Vecren eventually manages to repair a beacon strong enough to signal human ships. When the rescue vessel HSS Defender arrives, commanded by Captain Frank Holland, they find Emma safe aboard Vecren's ship. Daniel, who survived the Pathfinder's destruction, is reunited with his daughter. The gratitude is overwhelming, but Vecren refuses any reward, explaining that preserving life is simply what one does. He provides the humans with coordinates to reach Kelrath space if they ever need assistance, though he warns that his people rarely interact with outsiders. The Kelrath government is initially displeased with Vecren's breach of protocol, but doesn't punish him severely. Vecren returns to his quiet life of research, believing the incident closed. 15 years pass. Emma Griffin is now a decorated officer in the Human Expeditionary Navy, commanding her own frigate, the HSS Valiant. She's never forgotten Vecren and keeps a small Kelrath translation device he gave her as a gift. Her father Daniel has risen to admiral, overseeing humanity's defensive fleets. Humanity has grown significantly in galactic presence, respected for their tactical innovation and fierce protection of their own. They've made both allies and rivals among the stars. One day, long-range deep space monitoring stations detect something alarming. A massive invasion force is sweeping through a distant sector of space, wiping out civilizations with ruthless efficiency. The aggressors are the Vracan Dominion, a militaristic empire that views all other species as inferior and worthy only of subjugation or extinction. Intelligence reports confirm the Vracan's next target, Kelrath space. The Kelrath, with all their technology, are pacifists. They have impressive defensive shields and some automated defense platforms, but no standing military, no warships, no concept of organized warfare. Their isolationism means they have no allies to call upon. Projections show that despite their advanced technology, the Kelrath will fall within weeks once the Vracan arrive. When this intelligence reaches Admiral Daniel Griffin, he immediately brings it to the Human Council. The debate is fierce. The Kelrath are not allies, have no treaties with humanity, and some argue that humanity shouldn't risk a war with the powerful Vrakan Dominion for a species that has barely acknowledged human existence. But Daniel makes an impassioned case. He tells the story of Vekran, how one Kelrath risked everything to save one human child when he had no obligation to do so. He argues that humanity's strength isn't just in weapons but in loyalty, in remembering kindness, in standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves. Emma, now Captain Griffin, supports her father's position, as does a growing coalition of officers and politicians who see this as a defining moment for humanity's character. The decision is made. Humanity will intervene. Within 2 weeks, Admiral Daniel Griffin assembles the largest human battle fleet ever gathered. Leading the fleet are massive carriers like the HSS Thunderhead commanded by Captain Raymond Cole, heavy battle cruisers including the HSS Ironclad under Captain Helen Price, and hundreds of frigates, destroyers, and support vessels. The fleet includes Captain Emma Griffin's HSS Valiant and incorporates humanity's latest weapons technology: plasma railguns, quantum torpedoes, and experimental shield disruptors. Key commanders include Admiral Daniel Griffin as Supreme Commander, Vice Admiral Karen West handling tactical coordination, Rear Admiral George Mitchell commanding the carrier group, and Captain Christopher Lane leading the Vanguard destroyer squadron. The fleet makes the 3-week journey to Kelrath space at maximum sustainable speed. Upon arrival, they find the Kelrath desperately trying to reinforce their planetary shields as Vrakan scout forces probe their defenses. The main Vrakan invasion fleet is only days away. Admiral Griffin makes contact with the Kelrath High Council. The aliens are stunned that humanity has come. They don't understand why. When Daniel explains about Vekran and Emma, the Kelrath are moved but confused. One act of compassion from 15 years ago involving one individual has brought an entire species to their aid. Vekran himself is summoned to meet with the human fleet. Now older, he's overwhelmed with emotion when he sees Emma again, now a confident military commander. The reunion is touching but brief. There's work to do. Daniel proposes a joint defense plan. The Kelrath will maintain their powerful planetary shields and provide intelligence on Vrakan movements using their superior sensor technology. The human fleet will engage the Vrakan in open space, using mobility and aggressive tactics to disrupt their invasion force. The Kelrath are reluctant to see violence, even in their defense, but they understand necessity. Some Kelrath scientists, including Vekran, volunteer to work with human engineers to integrate technologies, creating hybrid shield systems and improved weapons targeting. When the Vrakan invasion fleet arrives, it's massive, over 300 warships designed for planetary siege and orbital bombardment. The Vrakan commander, War Prime Thraxon, is initially amused to find humans defending the Kelrath. He views humans as insignificant, a young species with delusions of power. The battle begins in the outer system. Captain Christopher Lane's destroyer squadron conducts hit-and-run attacks, drawing Vrakan forces into ambush zones. The HSS Thunderhead launches wave after wave of fighters that harass the larger Vrakan ships. Captain Emma Griffin's HSS Valiant leads a daring strike against a Vrakan command carrier, using the shield disruptors to devastating effect. The fighting is brutal. Humanity takes losses. The HSS Defender, the same ship that rescued Emma years ago, is destroyed protecting a Kelrath orbital station. Captain Raymond Cole is wounded when the Thunderhead takes heavy fire but refuses to leave the bridge. Admiral Griffin coordinates the defense with precision, using humanity's tactical flexibility against the Vrakan's rigid formations. He orders Vice Admiral Karen West to execute a dangerous maneuver, using the Kelrath's gravity well generators to create spatial anomalies that disrupt Vrakan fleet movements. The turning point comes when the Vrakan attempt a direct assault on Kelrath's, the Kelrath homeworld. The HSS Ironclad and 15 other human battlecruisers form a defensive wall in high orbit, combining their shields with Kelrath planetary defenses to create an impenetrable barrier. For 6 hours, they withstand continuous bombardment. During this critical moment, Vecren and a team of Kelrath scientists perfect a weapon based on combined human-Kelrath technology, a harmonic disruptor that exploits a frequency weakness in Vraken armor. They transmit the specs to the human fleet. Captain Emma Griffin volunteers to deliver the first strike. Taking the HSS Valiant on a suicide run deep into the Vraken formation, she targets Thraxon's flagship directly. The harmonic disruptor works perfectly, tearing through the flagship's defenses. The massive vessel begins to break apart. Emma's ship is badly damaged, losing power and venting atmosphere. As Vraken ships close in for the kill, Vecren himself takes control of a Kelrath transport, racing into the battle zone despite never having flown in combat before. Using tractor beams and improvised shields, he pulls the Valiant to safety, just as he once saved Emma from the nebula. The destruction of the Vraken flagship breaks their coordination. Admiral Griffin presses the advantage, and the human fleet tears into the disorganized Vraken forces. Rear Admiral Mitchell's carrier group executes the final blow, launching a coordinated strike that destroys 3 Vraken support carriers. Within hours, the Vraken fleet is routed. Survivors retreat at maximum speed, their invasion shattered. The Kelrath homeworld is safe. The aftermath is profound. The Kelrath, who spent centuries avoiding galactic politics, now understand the value of friendship and alliance. They open formal diplomatic relations with humanity, sharing technology and knowledge freely. The joint defense becomes the foundation for a lasting partnership. Vecren is honored by both species. The Kelrath finally recognize that sometimes, compassion requires more than passive observation. It requires action, even at great personal risk. Vecren becomes the first Kelrath ambassador to humanity. Emma Griffin receives commendations for her bravery, but she deflects the praise. At the ceremony on Kelrathas, with both human and Kelrath dignitaries present, she speaks simply. Vecren saved her when she was a frightened child lost in space. He taught her that the measure of a person or a species is what they do when no one is watching, when there's no reward, when it would be easier to look away. Humanity came to Kelrath space because they learned that lesson. They came because one life matters, one act of kindness matters, and repaying that kindness, that's what makes us human. The story concludes with Admiral Daniel Griffin and Vecren standing together, watching human and Kelrath ships patrol side by side in the orbital space above Kelrathas. Daniel reflects that humanity entered the galaxy as newcomers, uncertain of their place. They've found it now, not through conquest or domination, but through remembering that honor and loyalty transcend species, that debts of kindness are the most sacred debts of all. Vecren, in turn, reflects that saving one human child seemed like such a small thing at the time. He never imagined it would lead to the salvation of his entire species. But perhaps that's the nature of kindness. You never know how far it will reach, how many lives it will touch, how profoundly it will change the universe. The final scene shows Emma visiting a memorial on Earth dedicated to the human ships and crew lost defending Kelrath space. Among the names of the fallen, there's a special inscription, in honor of Vecren of Kelrathas, who taught us that one life saved is a world saved, and one kindness repaid is the foundation of civilization among the stars. The story ends with both species looking toward a shared future, built on the simple truth that compassion, when repaid with loyalty and courage, becomes the strongest bond in the galaxy.